Good morning. Welcome to Weathering with Lester, an introduction to weathering leather jackets with Lester Jones. This is an LJBC production. So, in order to weather a leather jacket, you're going to need a couple of things. You're going to need a leather jacket, and you're going to need something abrasive. My personal favourite being the heavy-duty scouring pads, but you can also get sandpaper or glass paper on sponges, or you can just use good old-fashioned sandpaper. I avoid sandpaper because it is sharp. It's made of glass and it will cut through leather and stitching. But if you're careful, you can get fantastic results. But I'm going to show you today using both of them on different leathers, because some leathers react better to sharper weathering. So on my table I've got a few old favourites here. I've got my Wested Todd jacket. I've got my Bill Kelso Last Crusade jacket. I've got a Legacy Last Crusade jacket from Wested. I've got a Legacy Raiders jacket from Wested, and I've got my hybrid jacket, which is basically I got Wested to make me a jacket which has got elements from all of the movies. So let's crack on. Before you start, you're going to need to get some reference material. So Google Images is fantastic, pretty much all I use really, or go on the Facebook groups, look for the Stills Archive. Publicity shots are always best because they're taken in good light, there's no movement. Also pictures people have taken, for instance, of the jackets in museums where available. But there's a rule of thumb. There's two types of weathering. There's naturalistic weathering, so a jacket looks like it's actually been around for a long time, and then there's movie weathering, which just means it looks battered to buggery and it's just got the key elements weathered. So I'm going to be focusing on movie weathering because, well, it's easier. And for naturalistic weathering, you're probably going to look at archive sites and eBay and sales sites for just old leather jackets and see where the wear and tear is on those, or buy yourself a really old jacket and use that as reference. Go to museums like the V&A or wherever old shit is displayed. But you'll see here on the indie jackets, it's fairly similar weathering but of different levels. Anything that catches on tombs, rocks, bad guy swords itself. So you're looking at seams, the bottom of the jacket, the flaps on the pockets, the sleeves. Shoulders are a good one, and elbows, things where you might be pushing against rocks or rolling out of the way of a truck. Collars, pretty much anything that sticks out. If you were to brush your hand against it and you feel a knock, then that's a seam. That's where you want to start weathering. These jackets look a lot oranger than they really are. Must be the cool British sunshine today. But again, you'll see shoulders and elbows, the seams down the arms, again where buttons pop out. Obviously not so much on the insides because the insides don't get that battered, but you still do want to make sure you do some weathering inside, else it just looks inconsistent with the look of the jacket. So now we'll do some basic techniques. Now I've cut my scouring pads into smaller pieces because they're easier to handle, and I've chosen 3 jackets of differing ruggedness. So over here on the left you've got the Legacy Raiders Last Crusade jacket. It's a very soft skin, but still sturdy, but also the top coat, as it were, comes off quite easily, so you don't need to put too much effort into actually getting a good weather on these. In the middle you've got my favourite skin is the Wested Shrunken Lamb, but I've dyed it with dark brown eco water stain. And over here you've got the Legacy the Wested Legacy Raiders Hero, and this is a tough leather, you know, so it needs a bit more oomph to actually do some weathering. I've started a little on here, but let's go back to the Last Crusade. And again, like I say, okay, let's pause a second. So this jacket's pretty new. It's not really been had the water treatment or been scrunched up or has much character. I'd recommend wearing the heck out of a jacket first, you know, start getting some character into it. Don't just start weathering the first day you get it, because it looks a bit too fake. You know, it's a brand new jacket but weathered lots. It's like, it doesn't quite, it's incongruous. But this is for a demo, so let's go anyway. So like I say, just only rub where you want stuff to come off. You know, you're doing this seam here, you'll see just light strokes, and you're starting to see the colour coming through straight away. Again, you know, on the button, you know, things that would naturally catch and wear. Don't go too hard, you know, just do gentle strokes all over, because you want, apart from things that are obvious buttons, you want to really avoid hot spots. So a hot spot is where you've gone really hard in one place and it just looks bright and just not quite right. You know, it's, if you're getting natural wear, it's going to be through, you know, years of brushing against rough objects and, you know, climbing in and out of mine carts. So just do lots and lots of gentle strokes rather than a few angry ones. That's definitely appropriate for large areas. So when you want to do the shoulders and the back, etc., you know, don't create a hot spot and do it right there. You know, work around the whole area, you know, concentrating on the center, working out, just slowly. So yeah, like I say, the Last Crusade Legacy Wested, you know, within moments you're already starting to get some natural weathering on there. Now go over to the Shrunken Lamb. Again, you'll see a few gentle strokes, and you know, you're starting to get some colour coming underneath. When it comes to doing the seams that are under the leather, you know, if you stroke across, you know, it's really going to bring out the fact that there's something underneath. And then of course you've got the Legacy Raiders. Like I say, it's a tough skin, so let's find the area I've not even touched yet. So we've got, you know, a back seam. You know, I'll do some gentle weathering here. Oh look, nothing happened. So, you know, again, this one you need to be a bit careful with, because the more forceful you are, the more likely you are to pop some seams. But you might want to go with a sandpaper. Other people use chemicals. I'm not a fan of chemicals because you can dry out the leather and you end up with jacket squeak, and there's nothing worse than walking around and sounding like an old sailing ship. But again, let's just do some weathering and see how we get on. So I'll concentrate on the Wested Legacy Last Crusade jacket because it's easier, you know, it's quicker, so we don't have to spend hours doing this. But we're going to do the storm flap, and you're basically just dragging down the flap, dragging up the flap. Again, don't concentrate on a single area, try and be broad. Watch out for the placement of the zip, because when you go with the zip it's going to create a hot spot. So when you're doing the upper portions, put it down the bottom. When you're doing the bottom portions, put it up top. And this, you'll see with this jacket, the underneath comes out nice and easy. When doing pockets, there's a mask. Make sure they're empty, because again they'll create texture, because there'll be hit spots. Drag across the seams. Also, in many of the jackets you'll see that there's a stripe across the pocket flap, and that's because it's hit off the pocket underneath. So you can drag down, and the weathering will find that, or you can just fake it and do it side by side. But you'll see it's coming out there nicely. And again, when you're doing this, it's best to have your laptop or your iPad or whatever next to you with the reference photos you're using. Be careful, because obviously each film has multiple jackets, so you really want to look at ensuring all the images are from the same jacket, because then you'll have two different images of the pocket that are different. You don't know which one to refer to. Just have one jacket. For instance, there's plenty of shots out there of the Smithsonian jacket, so that's always a good reference. Like I say, when doing larger panels, spread the jacket out so there's nothing underneath it, it's nice and flat. I often put a cushion or a pillow underneath, so it's got some floof to it, and you're not doing it on a hard surface. So as you can see here, the table I'm on has a round circle in the middle. If I started doing it over that, you'd get a round circle, and that would just look odd. So I'm just going to go and get a cushion. Okay, I've now installed my cushion, standard number 2 cushion, available at any haberdashery. Okay, so on the LC jackets, there's a weathering patch here, nice big weathering patch here. So again, like I say, you don't want to just go hard and heavy in one little tiny spot, and then a little spot, a little spot, little spot, little spot, like a domino. So just gentle circles. Like that, circular or oval motions, and you might think, oh, nothing's happening, but then suddenly, it will start popping out. And so this is where your spine is, and the major muscle groups down the back. So these, if you're rolling around, this is the area that's going to get the most contact. I don't know if it picks up on film or not. You can already see it starting to lighten here. Like I said, don't aim for the final product on your first go. Do a bit, so it's a few years of weathering, and move on to another spot. You can always, while you're on the back, you can start doing the yoke seam. Again, you can see that pops out really easily. And you see the action pleat seams. Let's move my cushion. Again, so where the shoulders are, where you'd be forcing open a tomb door or whatever, there's going to be some nice weather spot there. If the lining is creased underneath, it's going to show on top, so make sure that's nice and flat. Again, you're over here, so you do the top of the yoke seam. So you get somewhere there, marry it up with, they don't have to be symmetrical, but well, they pretty much need to be symmetrical. Obviously, in general, a person's dominant side is going to have the most wear and tear on it, because they'll always push open that big door with their left or right shoulder, or they'll hit the ground with one shoulder down. But this is movie weathering, so keep it consistent. Just a demo, I'm not going to go mad. Alright, items like the collar. It's very obvious that edges of the collar will get hits, but also you're going to get somewhat where it folds. See there, create a stripe down there, and you're going to see where it's stitched together. It's a double stitch here. That's going to come through. Don't be afraid of that. And again, be wary of what's underneath what you're weathering. So here, if I just went mad on this collar, I basically cause a line of weathering here that I don't want. So move your jacket to the appropriate place. Apologies if I'm getting in the way here. But yeah, there we go. Gentle strokes. And like I say, the Wested Legacy LC jacket, it's almost made to weather. It just does it itself pretty much. Now, look very closely at the reference images. I keep saying this, but do so. There are some very specific marks, like on one of the collars there's a mark across here, so you can replicate that just by using the tip of the scourer. Again, I'm not going to perfectly replicate it right now, but just making a start. It's usually best to have a plan. I don't have a plan right now, but so moving around the jacket in a logical fashion. So start with one front panel, move to the back, move to the next front panel, then start doing things like collars, and then work on the sleeves. Again, the sleeves have got hidden seams. You can just start rubbing up and down the seams. On the LC jacket, it is like a tram line. There's a very obvious stripe all the way down. Not particularly natural, but it's the look of the jacket and it's effective. Again, do the whole thing. Other areas that are going to get very heavily weathered, are places like cuffs. Again, do the edges of the cuffs, but also don't forget where the leather is folded underneath, and it's not really stitched, it's just sort of tacked, glued, whatever. But drag down to start revealing that. Exactly the same with the bottom of the jacket. These areas here, any flappy area, you're going to get heavily weathered because they're going all over the place when you're jumping from a minecart or being dragged under a truck, falling down a cliff. Again, the straps on the storm flap, these are very sticky outy, so these are always going to get lots of bashes and wears. And on a natural jacket, places like underneath the storm flap are not going to get much mileage, but add mileage anyway. You don't want the jacket to be too contrasty, whereas that you've got a nice weathered panel here, but then a nice dark panel here. Just won't look quite right. So move around the whole jacket, picking out the obvious areas, but not forgetting to give broad areas just a nice bit of a scrub. Right, I think we'll pause for a cup of tea. Okay, this is a pickup shot, an insert. Realised at the beginning I said that I'd show you using scouring pads and the glass paper, but I haven't yet. So I've got out the Legacy Raiders Hero from Wested to show. You saw earlier how easy it was to lift the seam out to see what's underneath. With the scouring pad on this leather, not much is really happening, and on a big area, very little going on there. So maybe you need something sharper, but again, be very careful with glass paper, especially when you're by stitching, because glass paper will cut through stitching. So you can try and basically it's actually doing something. So like I said, different leathers require different treatments. Scouring pad's great for most of them, but if you've got a hardcore leather like the legacy leather, or perhaps a goat skin, don't bother with goat skin, it's just bloody buddy proof. But if you fancy having a go, glass paper's your friend. Again, you'll see that glass paper actually does have an effect on the leather. But again, yeah, and even more importantly, to go slow here. You know, don't just blast away, because you might look back and realise that you've got 5 stitches popped. I've done it before and it's not easy to fix. So that's glass paper. Ta-da! Well, how about you? Take regular breaks. So yeah, don't just go mad and try and do the whole jacket at once. You've got to, like any piece of creative work, you know, pause, step back, look at it from a distance. Because yeah, if you get too in the zone, you can think you're doing exactly what you need to be doing, but then you look back and go, oh, bollocks, we've already got hot spots everywhere, or it just doesn't look right. So yeah, have a break. Oh yeah, another tip. Let's put the tea down for them. A couple of tips. You know, these are abrasives and they wear out. Once they start getting really soft and pliable, get rid of it, get another one. But keep them aside for really subtle stuff. If you want to blend areas, use a softer one that's already been used. But another tip is for more naturalistic weathering, wear the jacket. You know, you want the elbow wear and tear in the right place. Well, put it on your elbow. Rub. You know, again, on the areas where you're going to be hitting the ground and being dragged. You know, rub it like this. You'll see actually on the Smithsonian jacket that there is a streak right down here. Now, replicate that if you wish. But you know, I like to have an amalgam between movie accurate and, you know, real life. So again, shoulders, they're great. You've got bones and muscles, so if it's going to look like your jacket, you can weather it while you're wearing it. So, and also you can hit the seams. You know, just imagine this is what you're going to be hitting against something with. So, rub. But again, you can't really see what you're doing. So start it off. So you've got the location, but then you can take the jacket off, put it over your knee, put it on a cushion, and then make it broader and more defined. But again, you're wearing the jacket. So it's good for the sleeve seams as well. You're wearing it, you can pull them taut by holding it there and then just start dragging. Outside. Again, try and do large areas. Don't concentrate on little tiny bits, because especially if you can't see what you're doing, you know they're going to end up badly. But again, if you do get hot spots, you've got your softer used scourers. You can just work around the hot spot to blend the weathering in. So, well, that's it really. I'll quickly put on that jacket I did earlier, and then we can see how we did. So here we go. This is my Wested Temple of Doom jacket in Shrunken Lamb, over-dyed with dark brown EcoFlow water stain. And I don't know what it picks up. I realise, of course, now I'm slightly silhouetted, but you'll see this jacket has use and wear. It's got wrinkles. That's another good thing. You know, once you've worn the jacket in and got the wrinkles in the right place, the weathering becomes more natural if you do it afterwards, because you're going to hit the high areas of the wrinkles, and it just looks like you've actually worn the jacket and not just got a brand new jacket with weathering on it. Again, you know, heavy distressing on the shoulder, on the collars, pockets. I don't know what the back looks like, I'm facing away from it. But yeah, just go as far as you want. You know, you can do some nice subtle weathering. You know, the weathering on, for instance, the Raiders jacket isn't particularly in your face and obvious, but the weathering in the Last Crusade jacket really is. You know, it's high contrast because that picks up on film better. And obviously the Todd is somewhere in between. That's why it's my favourite, because it's more natural looking weathering. Thank you for your time. This has been a Lester Jones Broadcasting Corporation production. Have a good day.